The day she walked out with nothing at was raining that day in Los Angeles. Not the usual light drizzle that came and went, but a steady, quiet kind of rain. The kind that made everything feel heavier. Streets were wet, the skies gray, and Ana de Armas stood just outside the tall glass building that held her dream. She wore a thin blue sweater, soaked through at the shoulders, and held her trembling hands together as she tried to make sense of what had just happened. She had just been rejected. Again. Inside that building was the casting room where Ana had given everything she had. Her voice, her emotions, her heart. She had practiced the lines all night, standing in front of a mirror, whispering to herself, crying when the character cried, smiling when the script told her to. And still, it hadn't been enough. Just not what we're looking for, the casting director had said, not unkindly, but firmly. And then they moved on. Just like that, Ana didn't cry at first, not right away. She walked out calmly, thanked them for their time, and held her head high until the elevator door closed. It was only when she reached the sidewalk that it hit her. She wasn't good enough, not for them. Maybe not for anyone. She sat on a nearby bench, her wet sweater clinging to her skin, her makeup slowly washing away with the rain. People passed by, umbrellas in hand, not seeing her, not stopping, and that made it worse. She felt invisible, eh? Few hours later, a black car pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. Ana. A soft voice called out. She turned slowly. It was Keanu Reeves. He stepped out of the car with an umbrella and a warm coat in hand. He didn't say anything. Right away, he just walked over, knelt beside her, and held the umbrella above her head. "You're soaked," he said quietly, offering her the coat. Ana stared at him, confused. "What are you doing here?" Keanu didn't answer that, not fully. Instead, he sat beside her on the wet bench, still shielding her from the rain. "I had a meeting down the street," he said. "I saw you from the car. You shouldn't have come," Ana whispered. Her voice broke at the edges. "I failed." "Yeah." Keanu looked at her for a long moment. "No, you didn't." They said no again. She shook her head. "That's all I ever hear? No, no, no. Then they're wrong." Ana laughed bitterly, but it came out more like a sob. "You don't get it." Keanu didn't argue. He didn't try to cheer her up with cliches or tell her everything would be fine. He just sat there, letting her feel what she needed to feel. The rain slowed a little, softening to a drizzle. "Come on," he said gently. "I'll drive you." Home. Ana hesitated, but then nodded. She was too tired to argue inside the car. Warmth returned to her hands. Keanu turned on the seat warmers and handed her a small thermos of tea from his bag. She held it tight, not drinking, just thankful. "For something warm to touch, you know," Keanu said as he drove slowly through the wet streets. "I got rejected a lot, too." Ana looked at him, surprised. "You?" He nodded. "More than you'd think. People always see the success. They never see the years before it." Ana went quiet. His words felt true. But they didn't stop the ache in her chest. He dropped her at her apartment, but before she got out, he placed a hand on her shoulder. "Don't quit," he said softly. "Please." She nodded weakly and stepped out. That night, Ana sat alone in her small apartment. The heater made strange noises, and the walls were thin. She pulled the blanket up to her chin and looked at the ceiling. Maybe this wasn't her path. Maybe she'd never be enough. But then she remembered Keanu's words. "Don't quit." And for some reason, she didn't. A year passed, then another. Yana kept going. The rejections didn't stop, but she stopped letting them break her. She worked. Odd jobs. Waited tables, taught Spanish classes in the mornings, and read lines at night. Sometimes she didn't eat well. Sometimes she couldn't pay rent on time. But she kept showing up. There were days when she cried in the bathroom of casting studios. Days when she walked home because she couldn't afford the bus. Days when she doubted every single thing about herself. But still, she kept going. And sometimes, Keanu would check in. A simple message. A voice note. Never too much, never overstepping. Just enough to remind her she wasn't alone. "I saw your short film. Beautiful work. Heard you got a call back. Proud of you." one step at a time. Anna, she saved those messages, played them on the hard days. Not because he was famous, not because he was Keanu Reeves, but because he believed in her when no one else did. One night, 5 years later, she got a role. It wasn't big. It was a small part in a small film, but it was something, then another. Line in a TV show, a commercial, a web series. Slowly. Painfully, she was building something, but still, she never forgot that glass building. 10 years passed. She stood now in front of that same building again, dressed in a soft white dress, no longer soaked in rain. Her hands were steady. Her heart still raced, but this time, not from fear. A black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. "You ready?" Keanu asked with a small smile. Ina smiled back, eyes misty. "Yes," she whispered. "This time, I am." Together. They walked toward the door. This time, she wasn't here to audition. This time, she was the lead. This time, the building belonged to her story, and Keanu had kept his quiet promise. The long walk back insideth, morning light spilled gently over the tall glass windows, the same windows that once reflected Anna's pain 10 years ago. This time, everything looked different. Not because the building had changed, but because Anna stood silently for a moment before reaching for the silver handle. The same door she had walked out of, feeling crushed and forgotten, now waited for her to return. But this time, it didn't feel cold. It felt like a doorway back into something she had earned. Keanu was beside her, wearing his usual calm smile. His black suit pressed and clean, yet never flashy. There was always something quiet about him, something grounding. He didn't speak, just waited. Anna looked up at him. "You're sure they're expecting me?" she asked, her voice barely. Above a whisper, "They're not just expecting you," Keanu said gently. "They built this project around you." She blinked. "But why now?" she asked, still not believing it fully. Why, after all this time? Keanu took a slow breath. Because stories take time, and so do people. They walked through the doors together. Inside the lobby, memories returned like old shadows. The red carpet, the front desk, the nervous actors pacing in the corner, holding scripts. She had once stood in that same place, holding a script so tightly her fingers left creases in the page. But now, when Anna entered, people looked up not to judge, but to admire. Miss Armas, the receptionist, smiled. "Welcome back," Anna smiled, stunned by the kindness. She followed Keanu toward the elevator. The same one that once closed behind her, like the end of a chapter, now opened like the beginning of a new one. They stepped inside. The ride-up was quiet. Her heart beat faster with every floor. Keanu saw her hands tremble slightly, and without a word reached out and gave her hand the gentlest squeeze. It steadied her. When the doors opened, Yana stepped into a large conference room lined with glass. Sunlight poured in, painting gold on the floor. A small group of producers, writers, and casting directors stood waiting. Some were familiar, some were new. But all had one thing in common: they had seen her rise. Anna, the lead producer, smiled warmly. "We're so happy you're here." Anna nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. Her heart was full. Words felt small. They sat together at a long table. Keanu took the seat beside her, but stayed quiet. This was her moment. The room grew still. 10 years ago, one of the older casting directors began. "You walked into this building and gave a performance we still talk about." Anna froze, surprised. "We didn't choose you then," the woman continued. "And that was our mistake." There was no bitterness in her voice, only truth. But we watched. Over the years, we saw the work you did, saw the pain and the beauty you poured into every role, no matter how small. And when we began writing this story, your name was the only one we could agree on. Anna felt her throat tighten. She looked at Keanu. He smiled, eyes soft. "The role," the producer said, placing a thick script in front of her, "is yours. Not because of who you know, because of who you've become." Anna placed her hand over the script, her fingers trembling. She nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. The first table read was scheduled 2 days later. Anna arrived early, as always. She wore a simple white shirt and jeans, her hair tied back. She never dressed to impress anymore. She came as herself. The room was filled with people, now actors, crew, assistant directors, lighting experts. Some whispered when she entered, not out of mockery, not out of doubt, but out of respect. Anna took her seat. Then she saw the name. Beside hers, Keanu? He walked in moments later, holding his own script, gave her a small nod. "You're stuck with me," he joked softly. Anna laughed, her heart lighter now. "I think I can handle that," the table read began. Voices filled the room. Laughter, emotion, deep silence during tense scenes. And when Anna read her lines, there was no nervousness, no fear, just presence. People listened. Really listened. One of the younger actresses sitting across the table looked at Anna in awe. After the read, she came over. "Can I ask you something?" she said, shy. "Of course," Anna replied. "How did you... not give up?" Anna thought for a moment. Then she smiled gently. "Because someone told me not to." And she looked over. At Keanu. Later that day, during a break in rehearsals, Anna and Keanu sat outside under a small tree in the studio garden. The sun was warm, the wind soft. "I never thanked you," Anna said quietly. Keanu looked at her. "For what? For waiting with me in the rain? For telling me not to quit? For seeing something in me when I didn't?" Keanu didn't say much, just leaned back, looked at the sky. "You always had it," he said. "You just needed time to grow into it." Anna stared ahead, her voice soft. "I used to think success was about being chosen. Now I think it's about choosing not to stop." Keanu nodded slowly. "That's it," he said. A silence passed between them, not empty, full. Full of shared history, of pain overcome, of years neither of them could fully explain to anyone else. "Do you ever think about that day?" she asked. "Every now and then," Keanu replied. "I was so lost, and now..." Anna looked up at the building, double quotes, "Now I feel found." Keanu smiled. Then it was all worth it. But even when dreams come true, new challenges rise. And soon, Anna would face something even harder than rejection, being seen by the world for who she truly was. But this time, she wouldn't face it alone. This time, someone would stand beside her, just like he always had. Her face was everywhere, but no one saw Hearst's trailer dropped on a Friday morning. Anna didn't even know it had gone live until her phone began vibrating non-stop. Texts, calls, mentions on social media. Her face was on the screen large, emotionally alive. She watched the trailer on her phone, alone in her apartment, and for a long time she said nothing in the trailer. Her eyes told a story without needing words. Her voice carried depth. The screen faded to black with her name. First in the credits, Ana de Armas. She covered her mouth with her hand. Her heart was pounding. Then she opened her window. From her apartment, she could see the billboard on Sunset Boulevard. It had changed overnight. It was her, standing tall, bold, quiet strength in her expression, the title of the film glowing beside. Her and Anna stepped back, unable to breathe for a second. It was everything she had dreamed of. And yet something in her chest felt... strange. Keanu called her later that afternoon. "How are you holding up?" he asked. Anna tried to laugh. "I don't know. You're nervous?" "It's more than I expected." "Good," he said softly. "It means you care." In the following weeks, the media attention grew louder. Interviews were scheduled. Red carpets planned. Stylists came in and out. Publicists prepped her on what to say, how to sit, how to smile, just enough. Anna nodded through all of it, but inside she felt far away, lost in the noise. At one event, a journalist asked her how it felt to be an overnight success. Anna smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's been the longest night of my life," she said. The quote went viral. People praised her humility, called her authentic, real. But no one saw the weight she carried the night of the first. Premiere came too soon. Anna stood in a gown she hadn't chosen, with makeup that didn't feel like her own, smiling into cameras. People shouted her name. Lights flashed, but her heart wasn't calm. Keanu was there, dressed in black, standing just off to the side. She walked over to him between photos. "Do I look okay?" She whispered. Keanu looked at her carefully. "You look like someone pretending to be who the world wants you to be," said honestly. Anna stared at him, startled, but underneath that he added, "I still see you." She swallowed hard. "Do you think they'll like the film?" she asked. "What matters more," he said, "is if you still like yourself when this is all over." Those words stayed with her as the lights brightened and the cameras turned again. After the premiere, they sat alone on a rooftop. Anna had kicked off her heels. Her hair was messy now, her dress wrinkled from the long night. Keanu handed her a sandwich he'd brought from a small diner. "You didn't have to," she said, taking it gratefully. "Everyone else brings champagne," he shrugged. "I bring grilled cheese." Anna laughed, and for a moment she felt normal again. She took a bite, then looked out at the city below. "This is what I thought I wanted," she said slowly, "and now I'm not sure." Keanu leaned back against the railing. "It's a lot, Anna. Attention, praise, pressure. It doesn't feel like real love." She nodded. "Feels like being watched, not seen. Do you want to disappear?" he asked gently. Anna thought for a long time before answering. "No," she said. "I want to be seen for who I really am, not the version they create." Keanu didn't say anything, but his eyes said he understood. The next morning, a photo of them on that rooftop went viral. Some paparazzi had zoomed in from another building, people speculated. Headlines asked if Keanu and Anna were secretly in love. Anna didn't respond. She didn't need to, but it taught her something. Nothing was fully hers anymore. Not her nights. Not her moments. Not even her silence. And that scared her. Weeks passed. The film released. Reviews came in. People called her performance haunting, powerful, unforgettable. She was offered new scripts. Studio heads wanted meetings. Directors wanted her face, her voice, her soul. But somewhere deep inside, Anna felt tired, not of the work, but of being misunderstood. One night, she sat on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by scripts, and cried. Not because she was sad, but because she didn't know who to be anymore. The world had embraced her, but she still didn't feel seen. She picked up her phone and typed a message to Keanu. "Can we go back? Just for a day?" His reply came within minutes. "Where?" "The place with the bench. I'll be there in 10. They met under the same tree where they had once sat before the table read. The garden was quiet now, moonlight brushing against the leaves. Anna sat on the bench, her sweater pulled tight. She didn't speak. Keanu didn't ask questions. Finally, she said, "I don't think I'm who they think I am." Keanu looked at her. "Who do you think you are?" Anna shrugged. "Just a girl who loves stories, and stay her," he said simply. "But they want a version of me that's more glamorous, more confident, more fake," Keanu offered. Anna nodded. "You don't have to give them that," he said. "But if I don't, they'll stop loving me." Keanu leaned forward. "Anna," he said gently. "Real love doesn't come with conditions." Anna's eyes filled. "Then why does all this feel so empty?" He didn't answer right away. "Just let the night breathe, because the spotlight is never warm," he said. "It only looks that way." Donna looked at him, tears sliding down her cheek. "Then what's warm?" Keanu reached over and held her hand. "Moments like this." And for the first time in weeks, Anna let herself be quiet. No cameras, no lines to read, no expectations, just silence. And for the first time in weeks, she felt whole again. She didn't want the fame anymore, just the truth. Anna didn't run away from the spotlight. But she stopped chasing it too. After the premiere, after the endless headlines and interviews, she asked her team for a short break. They were surprised. People usually leaned in when they finally had attention. They didn't step back. But Anna was different now. She wasn't looking to be everywhere anymore. She just wanted to feel real again. So she returned to where it all began. Not Hollywood, not the fancy studios or stages. She flew home in Cuba. The streets were quieter. The air was warmer, softer. Children played in the dust. Old men played dominoes at street corners. And every face felt familiar. Anna walked through her old neighborhood wearing sunglasses and a plain shirt. But people still recognized her, not because of the film, but because they had known her before all of it. An old woman waved from her porch. "Saw you," she smiled. "You were on television." Ina smiled back. "Was it any good?" The woman grinned. "You cried so well. Broke my heart." Ina laughed gently. "I learned from life." She spent her days walking those old streets, listening to stories, eating food she hadn't tasted in years. She visited her childhood school, sat on the swings in the playground, and remembered how far she had come. One afternoon, she sat by herself at the ocean, toes in the sand, a small journal in her lap. She began to write. Not a script, not a press. Answer. Just her thoughts. "I miss who I was when no one was watching. I miss the silence before I became known. I miss being loved quietly when the wind picked up." She closed the journal and held it close. That night, Keanu called. "You disappeared," he said, his voice soft with concern. "I needed to," she replied. "I figured." Anna closed her eyes. "You ever feel like it's all too loud?" "All the time," he said. "How do you live with it?" "By remembering who I am when no one's looking." Anna went quiet. "Thank you," she whispered. "Just promise me something," he said. Double quotes. "What?" "Don't let them build you in too." "Someone you don't recognize." Anna didn't answer right away, but deep down, she made that promise. 2 weeks later, she returned to Los Angeles. Her team greeted her with tight schedules and urgent plans, but Yana was different now, more centered. More sure, she no longer tried to be the perfect star. She spoke softly in interviews, or what made her feel like herself, smiled only when she meant it. Some media outlets called her distant, others called her graceful, but none of their labels mattered anymore, because Anna wasn't trying to belong to the world. She was just trying to be herself. Keanu invited her to dinner one night. Not a party, not an event. Just a quiet dinner at his home. He cooked pasta and salad. Nothing fancy. They sat in the backyard under soft string lights, their voices low, the mood calm. "So," he said, "what now?" Anna thought for a while. "I want to act," she said, "but only in stories that mean something." "What does that mean to you?" "Something real, something that shows the truth, the pain, the hope, the silence between words. I don't want to play a version of myself anymore. I want to play people who fight quietly, who break but keep walking." Keanu nodded slowly. "Those are the stories that last," he said. Anna looked at him. "Do you think I can survive in this industry if I say no to most things?" "You'll survive," he said, "because you'll be free." She smiled. Freedom. That's what she wanted most, the next day. Anna turned down 2 big roles. One was in a blockbuster action film. The other was in a glossy romantic drama. Both offered more money than she had ever seen, but neither felt true. Instead, she agreed to a small indie project. Story about a woman trying to rebuild her life after losing everything. It wasn't loud, it wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. On the first day of filming, the director came up to her quietly. "Thank you," he said, "for believing in something this small." Anna smiled. "Sometimes small things carry the most weight," she replied, and she meant it. Keanu visited the set one day, bringing coffee for the crew. He sat quietly in the back watching her perform. When the scene ended, she walked over, still in character, tears in her eyes. "How was it?" she asked, wiping her cheek. He looked at her for a long moment. "It wasn't a performance," he said. "It was real." Anna breathed deeply. "That's all I ever wanted?" He nodded. "You found it." But peace never stays quiet for long. A few nights later, Anna's phone rang in the middle of the night. Her publicist. "I'm sorry to call late," the woman said, "but something's going viral." Anna sat up. "What is it?" "Video. Someone filmed you and Keanu talking on set. They edited it to make it look like a romantic confession. People are spinning stories again." Anna closed her eyes. The silence she had worked so hard to find was slipping away again. The headlines. Return Keanu and Ana, more than friends? Secret whispers on set. What did Ana confess? Ana didn't say anything publicly. Neither did Keanu, but she felt the weight again, being misunderstood, being shaped into something untrue. One night, she knocked on Keanu's door. He opened it, saw her face, and stepped aside without a word. She walked in and sat on his couch. It's happening again, she said. I know. I hate it. I know. She looked at him, eyes tired. What do I do? Keanu took a slow breath. You let them talk, he said. And you live your truth louder than their noise. Ana leaned back. But it hurts, she said. It always does, he replied. But it stops hurting when you realize none of it can touch who you really are. Ana went still. And for the first time she understood fame could touch her face, her name, her story, but not her soul. That would always be hers. The awards night, no unexpected night of the awards ceremony, felt like a quiet storm waiting to happen. Ana sat in the back seat of a car, dressed in a black dress she had chosen herself. Nothing shiny, nothing dramatic. Just simple, timeless. The kind of dress you wear when you're no longer trying to prove anything. Her hands rested in her lap. Her fingers didn't shake this time. But her heart beat fast. Not because she was nervous about winning, but because she finally didn't care. If she did, Keanu sat beside her, calm as always. He wore a soft gray suit, hair tied back. There was a kindness in his eyes that didn't fade with time. Are you ready? He asked, voice low. Ana looked out the window. Crowds were already gathering, lights flashing, people shouting names. Somewhere in that crowd, someone held a sign with her name on it. Someone she didn't know. Someone who believed in her without ever meeting her. I don't know if anyone's ever ready, she said softly. Keanu nodded. Then we walk in anyway. The moment they stepped out of the car, everything exploded. Flashes, cheers, questions, shouted from behind cameras. Ana smiled, not because she had to, but because something inside her had settled. She wasn't afraid of being seen anymore. She was just choosing how she wanted to be seen, and tonight she wanted to be seen as herself. They walked the red carpet together. The reporters asked questions about the film, about her journey, about her dress, even about Keanu. She answered simply, honestly. One reporter asked, how does it feel to go from rejection to standing here tonight, nominated for Best Actress? Ana paused. It feels like a full circle, she said. But the part no one talks about is the line between the two. That line was long, painful, and it changed me. The reporter went quiet. Then another asked, and Keanu? Part of that circle? Ana looked at Keanu. He was the one who reminded me it was a circle in the first place. Inside the theater, the lights dimmed. The ceremony began. Ana sat in her seat, her name printed on the envelope resting on her lap. Her film had been nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Direction, and her performance had been nominated for Best Actress. But still, her breathing stayed calm. She looked around. So many faces she used to watch on screen were now sitting beside her, but she didn't feel smaller. She didn't feel less. She just felt ... present. And that was more than enough. They began announcing the major awards. When her category came, Ana folded her hands together and closed her eyes for a moment. Not to wish, but to thank. And the award for Best Actress goes to... A pause. Ana de Armas. The room burst into applause. Ana didn't move at first. Then Keanu gently nudged her arm. That's you, he whispered. She stood slowly, stunned. The lights hit her face. People clapped. Some stood. As she walked to the stage, she could feel her younger self walking with Hertha, one who once cried in the rain outside that very casting building. When she reached the microphone, she took a breath. I don't know what to say, she began. Her voice trembled, but she didn't hide it. 10 years ago, I walked out of a building after another failed audition. I was soaking wet, heartbroken, and ready to give up. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel enough. A quiet fell over the room. But someone sat beside me that day. He said 2 words that changed my life. She looked out at Keanu. Don't quit. Keanu looked back at her, eyes full. This award isn't about winning, Anna continued. It's about not. Walking away? It's about the long nights, the no's, the small yeses that barely held me together. It's about truth, about kindness. It's about people who sit beside you when you feel invisible. She smiled. Thank you for seeing me. Backstage, she sat in silence for a moment. The award still in her hand, Keanu found her sitting alone, just as she had been all those years ago. He didn't say anything, just sat beside her, like always. We did it, Anna whispered. No, Keanu said softly. You did it. She turned toward him, eyes soft. But you stayed. He shrugged lightly. You would have found your way with or without me, maybe, she said. But it would have taken longer. They sat there for a long time. No noise, no pressure. Just the warmth of stillness. Anna finally turned to him. You know? She said, I used to think success meant walking on stage, and now I think it means walking through the hardest part without letting it change your heart. Keanu nodded. That's real success, he said. Anna leaned her head on his shoulder, the weight of the award forgotten in her lap. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't. Thank you, Keanu replied, for becoming everything you were meant to be. Later that night, long after the crowd disappeared, Anna returned to the place that started everything, the casting building. She stood outside the same glass doors, holding her award in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. This time, the doors were locked. The place was empty, but that was okay. She wasn't there to go. She was there to say goodbye to. The girl who once felt small, to the voice that once doubted too. The version of herself that thought she needed permission to shine. Anna whispered, into the night, thank you for every no. And then she walked away, with everything she had once hoped for in her hands. And when they asked who helped her the most, she simply looked at him and passed after the awards night. But the feeling of that evening stayed with Anna like a soft echo in her chest. People treated her differently now. When she walked into a room, heads turned. Producers smiled a little wider. Scripts came faster. She had become someone the industry respected, not just for her performance, but for her story, her strength, her quiet, honest truth. But what meant the most to Anna wasn't the fame. It was the silence inside her that no longer ached. She didn't feel lost anymore. She didn't feel like she had to become someone else to be seen. She had found her voice, and she had spoken in it one morning. She sat at a small table in a quiet cafe tucked behind a bookstore, the same place she used to come to when she first moved to Los Angeles. No one recognized her there, or if they did, they gave her space. She flipped through her old journal. There were tears on some of the pages, shaky handwriting, sentences like, can't keep doing this, no one sees me, maybe I'm not meant for this. She smiled at those words now, not because they were funny, but because she had survived them. She heard a familiar voice behind her. Is that the same notebook you used 10 years ago? Anna looked up. Keanu stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee. You remember? He sat across from her, setting one cup down. I remember everything, he said simply. She closed the notebook and tucked it into her bag. I wrote a lot of pain in that book, she said, and now I write with peace. Keanu leaned back and looked at her carefully. What's next for you? Anna shrugged gently. Maybe I'll take time off. Maybe I'll write something of my own. He smiled. I'd like to see that. She looked at him. You've always said the right thing at the right time. Not always, he said, but I tried to listen. Anna's eyes softened. When people ask about my journey now, they want a perfect headline. A quote. That moment. But it wasn't any of that. It was small things. Quiet things. She paused. It was you. Keanu didn't say anything for a moment. Then he reached across the table and held her hand. You were the one who kept walking, he said. I just walked beside you. Anna smiled. Still, she whispered, I don't think I could have made it alone. A few weeks later, Anna was invited to speak at a major film school. It was an auditorium filled with young, nervous faces, dreamers, hopefuls, all of them where she once had been. She stood on the stage with no script, no speech, just her story. She spoke about the audition that broke her, the bench in the rain, the man who sat beside her and didn't try to fix her, only stayed. She spoke about failure, about crying on cold floors, about rejection after rejection. But more than that, she spoke about holding on. "They'll tell you what you aren't," she said, looking into their eyes, "but only you can decide who you are." She paused, and if someone ever tells you don't quit, listen. The room was silent, but she knew something had shifted in their hearts, just like it once had in hers on the way out. One girl stopped her. "Was the man who told you not to quit, Keanu Reeves?" She asked quietly. Anna smiled. "Yes," she said, "but not because he was famous, because he was kind." That night, she and Keanu walked under the stars. No cameras, no red carpet, just a quiet street and soft footsteps. "They asked about you today," Anna said. "What did you say?" "I said, you changed my life." Keanu looked up at the sky. "I think you would have made it anyway." Anna shook her head gently. "Maybe, but I wouldn't have made it with my heart still intact." He looked at her. "Then I'm glad I was." There, years passed, Anna kept working. But on her own terms, she wrote a film, directed her first short, started a small foundation to help young actors with no resources, actors who reminded her of herself. People called her a force of change, but she didn't care about the titles. She cared about the people she touched, the stories she told, and the ones who walked with her when she was still invisible. One day, during an interview, a journalist asked, "If you could thank one person above all, who would it be?" Anna didn't hesitate. She turned to the camera, her eyes full. "Keanu," she said softly, "for showing me that the most powerful thing someone can do is stay." On their last walk through that casting building, 10 years after it all began, they stood by the glass doors one more time. "You know," Anna said, "I used to think this place broke me." "And now?" Keanu asked. "Now I think it taught me how strong I was." She turned to him. "And how lucky I was to have someone believe in me when I couldn't." He smiled. "Some people wait a lifetime to be seen." She nodded. "And some, I only need one person to look." Together, they walked away. But this time, it wasn't from rejection. It was from the past, and toward everything they had quietly built through kindness, through resilience, through love that never needed a name.